Have you ever wished that you could be like Thor? Strong enough to survive the power of a star, control lightning with your fingertips, and just generally look like Chris Hemsworth? Then you're in luck, because today we're breaking down what your everyday life would be like if you had all of Thor's powers. Well, minus the looking like Chris Hemsworth part. We can't help you with that. What if you had Thor's powers? And how such amazing powers will affect your everyday life and the world at large. So, let's get into it. Right now! Your world will change drastically if you had Thor's powers, mostly for the better. Say goodbye to your normal, mundane existence because things are gonna be a lot more exciting. I'm not sure if you realize just how much would change if you had all of Thor's amazing abilities, and I'm not even talking about being drafted by a mysterious one-eyed secret agent to be a part of a super-duper team. No, let's just suppose we live in the real world where rogue demi-gods, evil robots, and mad titans don't exist to fight against. So you're still stuck living your normal life. And you know what? Life can still be pretty great. Let's just talk about your everyday routine for a moment. Some people love to start their morning with a solid workout, but if Thor's powers have taught me anything, it's that you'll probably never have to work out again. It would only depend on your own vanity, but we saw two different versions of Thor in Infinity War and Endgame. One looking like a shredded beefcake, and the other looking like he just ate 500 dessert cakes. And they both had the same strength levels. Even when he looked like melted ice cream, he was still the strongest Avenger by a landslide. Which is great news for you! Are you currently on a workout schedule determined to get those gains? Well, say goodbye to overpriced gym memberships that force you into an environment that reeks of sweat and protein powder because you don't need it anymore. What it'll all come down to is how you want people to look at you. You're the strongest person in the world, but do you want people to know it? If not, feel free to eat anything and everything you want, because that's not gonna affect your strength level. I don't know about you, but that's pretty darn tempting to me. Who am I kidding? I already lived that life, minus the strength. And speaking of strength, your job would probably change to match your new strength level because, let's be honest, would you really want a boring desk job when you can literally shatter worlds? No. So maybe all the jobs that require intense manual labor but pay a whole lot will now seem like a cakewalk to you. And trust me, you're gonna be a model employee too. Why? Because you'll almost never be late. How many times have you been rushing to work only to have your car break down? Or to have bumper-to-bumper traffic make you so frustrated you'd rather try to teach the whole calculus? With Thor's powers, you'll never have that problem again. You'll just step outside, swing that hammer a bunch of times, and throw it up in a general direction that you need to go. Sure, you might look a little weird to your neighbors, but sure beats driving places. And let's not forget just how smart you can be. Not because your brain's any bigger with these powers, but because of everything you'll experience. In the grand scheme of things, we don't have a whole lot of time in our lives. There's always a project that goes unfinished, a TV show we just can't catch up on, or goals we can never accomplish. But there's one element of Thor's power that'll make all of that possible. You'll live for over 1,000 years. That's something that isn't highlighted enough in the MCU. Sure, these last 10 years have been really rough on Thor, but he's actually 1,500 years of age. That's nuts. That makes the 10 years we've known him in the MCU equivalent to like just a small blip on his otherwise long life. 0.006 repeating percent of his life to be exact. But what does this mean for your everyday life? Well, for one, think of all the amazing stuff you would know. You wouldn't have to learn about history because, more likely than not, you were there when it happened. It'll immediately make you super knowledgeable in a wide variety of subjects. No longer will your bar trivia team only be good at the pop culture categories because you'll be their ringer, able to bestow upon years and years of knowledge and experience, which you're going to need because I assume you'll be at every bar doing trivia given your new desire to consume large quantities of beer and alcohol. But all that stuff are things out in the real world. What about at home? Well, you know that feeling you get when you hop in the shower only to discover it's too blistering hot to handle, forcing you to do the little shower dance as you try to cool the water down? Or when you desperately want to bite into a pizza roll even though it just came out of the microwave and you burn your mouth every time? Well, you can say goodbye to those inconveniences. Your body has the ability to withstand the heat of a star starting up again, so I'm pretty sure it can handle some Totinos. Honestly, you can forget almost everything else. Eating hot foods immediately without burning your mouth might be the best added bonus I can think of. These are just some of the amazing things that would totally change if you possessed the powers of Thor. But don't think it's all sunshine and rainbows. There's a downside to all of Thor's powers as well. For one, can you imagine how high your electricity bill's going to be? Your body will now radiate electricity constantly. And do you think that wouldn't affect the devices at your home? No, I estimate an increase of like 300% when it comes time to pay that pesky utility bill. And who can really afford that nowadays? Speaking of bills, I hope you know a good carpenter because I imagine Thor's immense strength makes it hard to do anything safely. You could sneeze and the projectile force of your breath could knock a hole in your wall. You could be cutting a vegetable with a knife only to press a little bit too hard and cut straight through the whole table. Your life becomes one big commitment to not accidentally crush the hand of any new person you meet. That much strength could be an issue. After a long day at work, all I want to do is sit and relax. And that's hard to do when you're just as strong as the Hulk. And what about the elephant in the room? And by that, I obviously mean Mjolnir. If you have all the superpowers of Thor, then the hammer kinda comes as a package deal. And since you don't have a crazy sister who can destroy it with a flick of her wrist, you'll probably be stuck with it for quite a while. And here's where things get tricky. The hammer's whole shtick is that you need to be worthy in order to wield it. And that sort of forces you to do good things in your life. Say you leave the hammer on a table and then you go tear off your mattress tag when it clearly tells you not to. Whoops, then you'll lose your worthiness and the hammer becomes a permanent fixture on the table or wherever you placed it last. Would you technically be able to pick up the table? Or like an elevator. Could you put Mjolnir in an elevator? Would that bring it up? Never mind. All that pressure to be a worthy person could be overwhelming at times. Plus, what happens if you accidentally summon it at the wrong time? You might be in bed, minding your business, and then accidentally think about the hammer and wham! It crashes through your walls and appliances to get straight to you. I don't think that's covered in renter's insurance. But the biggest thing about having Thor's powers is how they affect your relationships with everybody around you. You're suddenly known as that super strong guy, so expect everybody and their mothers to be asking you specifically to help them move stuff at every opportunity. Everyone's got that one friend who just calls and asks for things, and that person will be quick to have you fly across the world on a whim just to pick up certain items. Plus, I wouldn't put it past people to ask you to charge their phones with your electricity powers, and who wants to do that? But the saddest thing about Thor's powers has to be the age difference. Sure, you might live for thousands of years, but everyone around you will still be mortal, which means you have to constantly make new friend groups every 40 to 50 years or so, and who's got time for that? So, unless you don't mind all those issues, maybe having Thor's powers wouldn't be the greatest thing in the world after all. But one important aspect you have to consider when examining what life would be like if you had Thor's powers is when you actually acquired these gifts. There's a big difference between being born with Thor's powers or suddenly winning a lottery today with the main prize being to gain those extraordinary abilities. If you had the powers from birth, it might be a little easier to navigate. You could adjust or hide your powers as necessary and live a pretty functional life. You would develop skills to only use your powers when completely necessary, and not be burdened with the incredible fear of misusing the powers in some way. But if they came to you right this very moment, you have to imagine there would be a massive calibration period. Look at your cell phone right now. Can you imagine what it would be like if you suddenly were given the power to crush it into dust with one solid squeeze? That's a terrifying thought. If these powers came to you now, you'd probably want to search out some sort of superpower school that could teach you how to handle all the changes your body's going through. Good luck finding one of those around. Overall, it's not like you'll have other people in your life who can talk to you and relate to what's going on. And oh no, thinking about my body going through awkward changes and learning to live with them just reminds me of puberty all over again, and I hate it! Oh, I hate it! Oh, I hate it. But maybe all that risk would be alright. Sure, there would be a few downsides, but if any of us were given the chance to have Thor's powers, would we really say no? I'm talking God powers here. And even if you don't use them to fight bad guys and stop crime, they'd still be awesome to have for your everyday life. Now who do I have to talk to make this happen? Loki? Odin? Stan Lee's crazy hair cutter from Thor Ragnarok? He seems like the type of guy who would grant you magical god powers. If I was given the choice to have the power of Thor, I'd go for it. I want to be really strong. But what about you? Do you think this power would help your everyday life? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more awesome MCU content just like this. As always, Thanks for watching.